and I can look up and down the rows and see them coming at me or going away from me. So there's one.
It's so radical. There's so much going on in there.
Yeah, there really is.
So much going on there.
And like I say, it's just, there's so much going on in a hypnagogic dream. I can only grab one thread of it because I'm trying to narrate what's non-narrative. So I'm grabbing one little thread of it and pulling that back into the waking world. But there's so much going on that's about 1/100th of it.
Hey friends, you're listening to All Aboard the Dream Train, a dream storytelling podcast where stories and experiences created by the unconscious brain are retold by the waking brain. A safe place where we explore and discuss the similarities and differences between the dreaming life and the waking life. Alright friends, this is episode 12 of All Aboard the Dream Train. Welcome back. Thanks again for listening. If this is your first time, to give you a quick idea of how this works, each episode I interview a new guest and ask them some questions about themselves. I ask them some questions about their sleep hygiene and sleep habits. And then I ask them to share a story or two about dreams that they've had and how those dreams have affected them in their waking life. In addition to encouraging people to share their dream experiences, which is something I feel that doesn't get talked about enough, I also am a big proponent of getting an adequate amount of sleep at night. I'm sure we can all relate on running on fumes and trying to power through your day with caffeine, especially with the holiday season upon us. But just remember that sleep is the best reset for your body, so don't ignore it. It's just not worth it. All right, let's just dive right in. Today's guest is a San Francisco-based writer and lecturer and the founder of the Oneironauticum, an international organization that explores the phenomenological experience of dreams as a means of experimenting with the mind. She has lectured and led workshops at festivals, conferences, and venues. I had the pleasure of hearing her and her significant other speak here in Portland at the Clinton Street Theater, which was organized by the Portland Psychedelic Society. Their speech was both fascinating and eye-opening, and I left with so many questions and wanting to know more. If you see that they're coming to your town, you should go check them out. It'll be well worth your time. And finally, she also teaches the practice of liminal dreaming, which also happens to be the name of her book, which covers step-by-step how to create a dream practice and integrate the deeply unusual half-waking dream states of hypnagogia and hypnopompia. I've been super excited to share this episode, and I'm both thankful and honored to have had a chance to speak with her. Please welcome aboard Jennifer Dumpert. I appreciate it. Will you tell anybody that's listening your name and location?
Sure. My name is Jennifer Dumpert. I am at this particular moment in Big Sur, California.
Where are you from, Jennifer?
Well, I've lived many, many, many places. Mostly I live in the Bay Area.
Cool. Pretty much your whole life.
Oh, gosh, no. Let me see. Buffalo, Toronto, Paris, Guatemala, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco.
Wow. Okay. All right. You've been around a little bit. That's awesome.
A little bit.
What are some of your hobbies and your passions?
Well, obviously I have a passion for dream work.
Mm-hmm.
I have an old VW van, and I have a great affection for and knowledge about old VW vans. I like mermaids and whales.
Cool.
I like costumes.
Okay. And how would you describe yourself?
That's such a good question. I mean, it's
not always easy.
It isn't always easy. Well, and not only is it not particularly easy, but I feel like I'm at a kind of a shift point in my life. So I guess I would say that I'm pretty outgoing and adventurous and extremely social. But I also find that the older I get, the more, like I'm an extrovert who likes to spend a lot of time alone.
I get that.
For example. Yeah. So it's been a very interesting thing in my life. I went through menopause and I put out a book. and now that I'm done with that, I feel like it almost feels like going through puberty again. It feels like a really major time of life change in ways that are good and fruitful.
Cool. That sounds awesome. Random side question. Do you have a spirit animal? I know you mentioned whales. Is that your animal of choice?
I would say either kitty cat or whale.
Okay.
Yeah. I definitely. I like kitty cats. I like the whales. It's pretty mammal centric, I guess.
Cool. I like it. I dig it. Okay, let's get into some sleep questions. What helps you relax or unwind at the end of the day?
I like hot baths. I'm very watery, so I'm kind of mermaid identified. So I really do. I take hot baths pretty frequently. I do, honestly, a lot of just kind of lying back and going into hypnagogia and floating in that space. I find that very soporific and very relaxing. I have a very long circadian rhythm. I'm an owl chronotype, which means I'm usually up quite late. So usually around sometime between midnight and 2, I like to go out and walk. And I go walk around and mess with the raccoons or smell the night air, whatever. Late night walks that's a real favorite of mine as well.
Cool. You mentioned hot baths. Do you ever do saunas?
I can't abide saunas. I love hot baths and I love like hot pools or, that kind of thing, hot springs. But something about the sauna, just the hot air, makes me feel like I'm going to pass out. We were recently in Turkey and my spouse surprised me with this romantic place where couples could go to the Turkish baths.
Cool.
I was there for 10 minutes and I was like, I've got to go. I'm out of here.
Nope.
Yeah, nope.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So I know you talk a lot about onarogens, but do you have any sleep aids or like rituals or anything that like if you really need to go to sleep, you just reach for?
Well, so sleeping is definitely my best skill. I sleep quite easily. I do love, your body uses a lot of chemicals to basically paralyze you when you're in REM sleep, so that basically you don't act out your dreams. But your sense of smell and your sense of hearing, which of course don't matter, never go to sleep. So you can smell and hear just as well when you're asleep. How you are going to interpret it in your mind is a little bit what's weird. So that means that both sense and sounds make excellent onarogens. I love to go to sleep with listening to old Brian Eno ambient music is a big favorite of mine, but also other lovely ambient things. And I really love sleeping with the scent of rose or fresh burkmonsia flowers or lavender or mugwort. Sound and scent generally for me are really good transition between waking and sleep.
Cool. That's not something I've really dabbled with too much. I've done some of the binaural beats, but other than that, I haven't really dabbled in smell or sound.
Yeah. They're actually quite interesting. And when people ask me about things like bad dreams or fear states and hypnagogia or wanting to have a certain awareness moving through liminal dream zones into sleep, I often recommend sound and scent because of how powerful they are, and most people don't realize that how much they are transitioned between waking and sleep.
Yeah, it's interesting. How do you do the scent? Is it like a potpourri that you put like under your pillow? How do you do it?
I do make a lot of dream pillows. I've made a lot of dream pillows in my life. That's one of the things that sometimes I'll do is, with gatherings of people, is have them make dream pillows. I love, so burkmonsia flowers are those kind of long, thin, bell-shaped flowers. Datura, don't eat it, is like a burkmonsia. And those just, they're night blooming. So you just pick the flower at night and tie it to your bedpost, and that makes for wonderful. Also, you can buy those that put steam into the air, and just a little bit of essential oil into that, and put it by your bed. That works really well.
Oh, cool! Yeah, awesome. My next question was a night owl or early riser, but you already went into that. Were you always a night owl?
Always, my entire life. Our circadian rhythms are the various, dispensation toward chronotype, owl, lark. It seems pretty much to be inherited. You can change your chronotype to a certain degree, as anybody with small children knows, or people who work the night shift, or people who have to get up really early for an extended amount of time. You can shift your chronotype, your circadian rhythm, but for the most part, they're inherited. And both my parents are night owls. My sister is a night owl. We all are. Even from the time I was a little kid, we always stayed up pretty late.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's inherited like that.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, one of the things that people ask me about, and this is, and it's not totally uncommon. Well, people will say to me, "Oh, my partner or whoever is so good at remembering their dreams, and I never remember my dreams. What am I doing wrong?" And a lot of times, it's actually just circadian rhythm. If you're the kind of person like my spouse, for example, who as soon as you wake up in the morning, bing, you're wide awake. If you're somebody who, when you start working, is when you're freshest, and then you kind of wear down over time. If at the party you're often the first person who kind of gets sleepy, that just means it's probably it's circadian rhythm. We have varying circadian rhythms, and if you're a lark chronotype, if you're the kind of person who just wakes up, bing, wide awake, you're going to have a much harder time remembering your dreams, because you don't really spend much time in hypnopompia, which is the sort of the morning phase between sleep and waking, the morning liminal dream state. And so for a lot of people, it's really just your inherited chronotype. One of the things that I love in the work that I do, working with liminal dreaming, is introducing such people to hypnagogia, because a lot of people who don't have an active dream life discover hypnagogia and discover that they can have a really active dream life. All they have to do is nap and learn to identify hypnagogia. So it tends to be inherited. What about you? Are you a morning person, night person, or sort of in the middle?
I'm definitely in the middle. I really like getting up super early just because the days seem longer. But I don't know. It kind of comes in waves, and my job schedule has changed drastically the last couple months. So I kind of like a little bit of both, though. I can't stay up super late, though, for the life of me. I'm like one of those 9-10 o'clock old man that want to go crash on the couch. But I try to hang, but I honestly can't really hang that late.
Yeah. You are not alone in this.
Kind of on that same point, do you find those are your best creative times? I mean, what would you say is okay? Like between what and what at night, like 2 a.m. to 5, or what would you say?
I would say that I end up doing most of my work usually between sunset and like 2 a.m.
Okay.
I really like the thing that people often say about early morning, there's nobody else up and around. I really love that about the middle of the night. I love that there's no distractions. There's nowhere I can go. There's nothing I can do. I mean, I can go mess with the raccoons, which I do love doing. But for the most part, it's the middle of the night, and it's just everything is quiet. And I feel like I've gone through the day and sort of settled in a little bit into my thinking, into where I am. Whereas in the morning, for the first hour or two in the morning, I'm just confused. So yeah, so I would say always sunset, which the time of course varies. Yeah. Sunset to about 2.
Cool. Is there a place that you have that you do your best thinking? Do you have like a little haven?
I do a lot of my best thing. Well, I guess, it depends. So if it's kind of work thinking, like writing the book, that kind of thing, then I tend to do pretty well just in my office late at night. Okay. But if it's most other things and coming up with ideas, so, the inspiration versus perspiration, the inspiration part, by the ocean, which is what I'm doing now in Sur. I'm on a bit of a retreat, thinking about some other work that I'm doing, and basically being anywhere near the ocean for me is really, not only is it really calming and peaceful, but I find that it's where my mind forms the most coherent thought, perhaps.
Yeah, super interesting to think about. It seems like people might have their own little ritual.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you say that, I mean, it's a thing that I really think. Some people are mountain people, some people are forest people, some people are desert people. I mean, it's just like the various ideas of where people want to be. For me, it's so clearly ocean, and even specifically the wildness of the Pacific Ocean crashing against rocks is my favorite.
Oh yeah, super cool. I haven't been down to Big Sur, but that's on the list. It looks absolutely amazing.
I mean, I've traveled all over the world, and although there are places that are as beautiful, I've never seen anywhere more beautiful.
Yeah, it looks so unreal.
Yeah. And I had the very good fortune to have an extremely close friend who has a lovely little cabin here in which I am currently sitting.
Rad. That sounds awesome. Do you keep a dream journal?
Well, I tweet a dream every morning. I've been doing that for about 11 years as @Onerifer, ONEIROFER, Onero being the Greek root of dream and fer being Jennifer. So I tweet a dream a day as Onerifer. And then I've kept dream journals on and off. I'm going to date myself here, but for almost 40 years. Wow. And sometimes I'm not really, I mean, I do tweet the dream every day. So that serves as a dream journal of sorts.
I've seen that. That's awesome.
And then when I was, for the last 4 or 5 years, especially around writing the book, Liminal Dreaming, and really getting interested in hypnagogia, which is what happens when you're falling asleep, and hypnopompic, but mostly hypnagogia because you can take a nap. I really got into recording my hypnagogia. So I taught myself actually how to talk through hypnagogia. And so I'll often lie down with a voice-activated recorder. You can buy an app for your phone for like $3 or $5 or whatever. Okay. And it only records when it's sound-activated. Cool. So I lie down with the phone near me, and then I go into hypnagogia, and then I start talking, and then I record it, and then I have those transcribed. I've also learned a kind of an automatic writing. If I'm in light hypnagogia, I can actually type because I can touch type, so I can do it with my eyes closed. And I've learned that I can sit back with my computer in my lap and also kind of type out a dream. So for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been doing a lot of recording my hypnagogic dreams, which are very different from REM dreams. They tend to be non-narrative. They're much more free associative, kind of an image, an idea, a thought. And you can only capture, there's so much going on in hypnagogia. I often describe my little dreamlet bits as describing the ocean by by explaining a couple of drops of water, because it's just the tiniest little sliver of what's happening in hypnagogia. But at least I can grab little slivers of it to sort of give a sense of what the experience is.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's I've experienced it a little bit myself. It's really hard to describe, though. It's hard to grasp. I want to go into that a little bit more here in a minute. But it's not something you can take away like a REM dream or like a lucid dream. It's different.
Right. Yeah. It's very different. It's a very weird experience.
Yeah, totally. Do you track your sleep? Do you track like how many hours you sleep? In some of the early days of commercially available EEG machines, there's one called the Zeo, and I had about 6 or 7 of those because I would bring them with me to dream events, and I slept with one every night. And so I did track it for quite a while, and then the company went out of business, and they all turned into bricks. very expensive blocks of plastic. And I haven't really since, but I do have a couple of years of my sleep tracking. I know that as a general rule, I tend to sleep 8 or 9 hours more than a lot of people do, but I haven't tracked it for a while. I gotcha. Is your sleep more consistent or broken up?
Now that I am much more aware of what happens in the liminal zones in the space between awake and asleep, I find, so we all wake up pretty much every 90 minutes. Every 90 minutes or so, you surface back up to waking and then go back down again. Most of us, these are sort of little micro awakenings are so brief that we don't really notice it happening. And although people who have insomnia, often, you really need your first 3 hours of sleep, which is when you get your deep sleep. So a lot of people who deal with insomnia wake up after 3 hours in one of those awakenings and then have a hard time going back to sleep. And we can talk about that a lot more. I talk about insomnia a bunch. But now that I'm aware of that, I have become more aware of my of the fact that I'm sort of surfing up to awake every 90 minutes or so. So I used to sleep very solidly, but now that I know the chart a little bit better, I find that I do become more aware of my little micro awakenings.
That's interesting. What is your favorite sleeping position?
Oh, that's such a good question. And the thing that people overly ignore, can I tell you that? There's
Absolutely.
so much to be learned in your sitting position. As anybody who has a physical practice, like plays a sport or yoga or plays a musical instrument, knows the body has memory, right? And so if you learn your own sleep positions, if you're like, oh, I'm often in this position, then you can actually use that to recall REM dreams in the morning or to connect to what your night was. So personally, I sleep usually, I either curled on either side with whatever side I'm lying on, that hand in a fist against my forehead, and my other hand resting on my side and my legs curled up, or else I sleep fully on my back, either with both my hands on my stomach or over my head, full abandon, which is how I have the best dreams.
That's so interesting. It's so cool that question is like probably one of my favorites, because it's like it's something we never really see unless it's someone that's close to us. It's really just cool hearing.
I often encourage people to become aware of their sleeping positions if they don't already know them. And if you're trying to either remember REM dreams or work with hypnagogia, or you're working with dream incubation, with trying to solve problems in the dream state, it really behooves you to know your sleep positions. So if you're trying to remember a REM dream, for example, in the morning, get into one of the positions in which you sleep most regularly, and then try to sort of drift back. And the position, like I said, the body has memory. The position will often recall the dream. And once you've exhausted that, roll over into one of the other positions in which you sleep and go back in again. And you can actually cycle through that and remember your dreams and do some pretty interesting work.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I've heard a few people say that, like if they sleep on their stomach, they have nightmares. So I wonder if there's any type of trend to that.
There probably is. Sleep and dream is so actually poorly understood and studied. It wasn't until 1953 that Eugene Azarinsky put two and two together and realized that when people are lying there and their eyes are moving back and forth, they're dreaming. So like REM, I'm making air quotes, discovered REM 1953. That's not that long ago.
Right. Damn. All right. And the big one, what interests you in dreams?
I really enjoy seeing the worlds that are created by my own mind and experience. I mean, they're so amazing and ornate. I mean, the dream world is so much vaster than the physical world, and just seeing what happens in my own mind is often fascinating. The images that arise or the storylines or it's a lot of it's quite surprising.
Fair enough. Okay. Will you tell anybody that's listening a little bit about your book that just came out not too long ago? What it is?
Sure.
And yeah.
So the book is called Liminal Dreaming, Exploring Consciousness at the Edges of Sleep. And it's about the dream states that lie between sleeping and wake. So as you're falling asleep, you go through hypnagogia. And hypnagogia is that kind of hallucinatory, weird, often it's often very sound, it's often very free associative, that happens as you're falling asleep. And then hypnopompia, which is that drifty, you might feel like you're starting to form a thought and then realize that what seemed like it was an idea has drifted back across the boundary into dream again. Mm-hmm. So the book is about these two states, and it talks about both the subjective experience of these states. It gives some of the science around them. It explains what they are, how they work. That's the first half of the book. And then the second half of the book is a series of mini esoteric histories about ways that hypnagogia and hypnopompia have been used and understood through history.
It's an awesome book too. I'm new to like the dream world. I don't read a whole lot, but it was something that I'm still working through towards the end. But it's a very easy book to follow for someone that's like new to that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I really tried to write it in a very breezy, kind of easy to understand manner, especially since. So, for example, like understanding sleep cycles and different phases of dreams is actually, it's so complicated if you go and try to figure it out. So I tried to write all that in very easy language. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's great so far. I'm really enjoying it. Okay. Will you kind of give us a preface to the dream or dreams that you're going to share and kind of let us know if they were in the liminal space or not, and how those dreams kind of mended into your waking life?
Sure. So I chose, since we're talking about liminal dreams, and since I was telling you the stories about me recording myself and talking through hypnagogia, I thought I would read you one of those dreams, the transcription of one of the hypnagogic dreams that I recorded on a voice-activated recorder.
That sounds perfect.
So I'll give. Yeah. So I've chose a 2-paragraph bit here.
Cool.
All right. So now keep in mind, as a little bit of background. So this is a hypnagogic dream. So it's the space between awake and asleep. And in hypnagogia, you are simultaneously asleep and dreaming and in the unconscious, but you also have waking consciousness. You know where you are. You know, you can hear a conversation that somebody's having near you and understand what they're saying. You can count the chimes on the clock and know that it's 6. So you're sleeping awake at the same time. And you have this very non-narrative, free associative dream space sort of whirling through your mind. So here's one. Awesome. The sound of the wind rattling the windows in my bedroom disturbs the Old West Chinese guys in brocade hats, involved robes, who are sitting in a red-painted booth waiting for beer and opium in the form of swallows who swoop through the barn entrance to look at blue eggs in a nest. Behind them, a forest of bare trees blows in the wind, the leafless boughs all bending black against the dark blue of winter sunset. Lines of pink ovals fly through the air like they were shot from something. Streams of them, digital, all perfectly evenly spaced like it's electricity or design. But there's thousands of them. First, they're flowing in very neatly organized rows, like stripes through the sky. And then I'm looking through the middle of them like I'm immersed, but I don't have form because they're not hitting me. And I can look up and down the rows and see them coming at me or going away from me. So there's one.
It's so radical. There's so much going on in there.
Yeah, there really is.
So much going on there.
And like I say, it's just, there's so much going on in a hypnagogic dream. I can only grab one thread of it because I'm trying to narrate what's non-narrative. So I'm grabbing one little thread of it and pulling that back into the waking world. But there's so much going on that's about 1/100th of it.
Wow. Is there anything that you can take from that, or what do you take from that?
Sometimes the dreams reflect what's happening outside. Like I hear something, I hear the neighbor downstairs probably watching a sporting event and yelling, or I hear people on the street, and those make their way into the dreams. Sometimes, obviously, what happened in my day life shows up in the dream. And sometimes it's just the vast wilderness of the inside of my mind expressing itself. Like where do these crazy digital pink ovals flying through the air in orderly fashion? Where does that come from? I do not know.
That is so descriptive. It's really amazing. And do you know anybody else that's recording them like you are? There's got to be someone.
Now, yes. I mean, now that the book is out, people contact me and tell me that some people have had really good luck with this method. It's a really good method to actually learn to find the hypnagogic space, is just to try it, to lie with the voice activated recorder. There are a lot of exercises in the book for teaching people how to locate and linger in liminal dream. And on my website, liminaldreaming.com, there's some of those basic exercises. There's me talking people through if people want to just lie there and listen to it, whatever. So there's a lot of exercises to help people find that space, and learning to have napping with a voice activated recorder is one of those ways.
Very cool. I'm going to test you here. Do you know what the app is called that you use?
It's just called, I think I just use one called Voice Audio Memos that I use.
Okay.
I think but all it is any recorder that has a sound activated or a voice activated setting will do the trick, though. I've used other ones.
Okay.
That just happens to be the one I'm using now.
Cool. Do you use any methods to stay in the liminal state? I know I was listening to earlier today talk about it, but some people have metal plates, and when they drop something on them, it wakes them up.
Sure, you're talking about the Edison-Dali method. Thomas Edison and Salvador Dali, independently of each other, came up with the method for using hypnagogia for creativity and problem solving. And what they would do is they would each put metal plates on the ground, and Edison held a ball in each hand, and Dali used a big brass Spanish key. Tesla used this method too. And each man, when sleepy, like late afternoon or early evening, would sit back in a big, comfy, easy chair and go into hypnagogia, and then holding either the ball or the keys in their hands over the metal plates. And then as soon as they started to drift from hypnagogia into actual sleep, of course, they would drop what they were holding, which would hit the plates and wake them. And then Edison immediately started taking notes, and Dali would sketch. And you can do the same thing sitting in and just with a handful of change. Just sit in an easy chair when you're feeling sleepy with a handful of change or a jingly dog toy. And then as soon as you start to drift out of hypnagogia into sleep, you'll drop whatever it is and it'll wake you up. It's really a great way for accessing creativity and problem solving. I've actually written sections of workshops that I give in using that method.
I mean, if those guys are doing it, it's worth a shot in my opinion.
Good enough for Dali. It's good enough for me.
Right. It's going to be a good quote. I like it. I actually did that on an airplane. I kind of was nodding off, and I was actually reading your book at the time. But I set it down and went for a nap, and I had a cup of coffee in my hand between my legs, and ended up spilling it like all over my legs. So I don't recommend coffee, but any of those.
Maybe that's not the best one.
Yeah, maybe something cold. What kind of books or material are you consuming right now?
What kind of books? I just I did a very slow move through Andrew Holchek's excellent book called Dream Yoga. It's about Tibetan. It's about lucid dreaming, basically, and it's a really, really good dream book. So I also was I'm usually reading a nonfiction book and a fiction book at the same time. And so the nonfiction has been the Andrew Holchek, and the fiction has been Infinite Jest, which is 1,500 page book.
Oh, geez.
But I'm almost done.
Was there any either of the two that you like grew up on? Were you more drawn to fiction or nonfiction, I guess, growing up?
This equally. Like I say,
Okay.
I'm almost always reading one and one. Dream books, of course, have been a big fave of mine for a long time. Spiritual books, philosophy, that kind of thing. Science. I usually have. Those are kind of the things that rock my boat, and then fiction. Lots of it. I read quite quickly.
Very cool. I'm trying to get into fiction. I just can't, for whatever reason. My brain doesn't want to do it for whatever reason. I don't know why. So some people have fear of sleep paralysis. Is there anything that you fear in the dream world? And if so, what is it?
Me, no. I actually, it's incredibly rare for me to have anything unpleasant in a dream. Most of my dreams are pretty value neutral. I'm a very conscious sleeper. So I used to lucid dream, and I studied it. I studied with Stephen LaBerge. I did that whole bit. But mostly I don't try to do that. That said, I'm a conscious dreamer. So I'm usually aware of the fact that I'm dreaming, even in the dream. And so if things get at all unpleasant, I tend to just shift it around. That said, one of the things that comes up with liminal dreaming, so sleep paralysis is often a liminal dream phenomenon, and about 5% of the population has a lot of, basically is plagued by sleep paralysis. Yeah. And if that's you, there's a section in my book about sleep paralysis. There's also an excellent book by Ryan Hurd, Hurd, who runs the Dream Studies portal. Hi thee hence to the Dream Studies portal. It's an excellent resource. Cool. And Ryan wrote a very short book called Sleep Paralysis. And for a lot of people, things that are emotionally difficult can arise in liminal dream space. If you're someone who has a lot of fear, for example, and if that's you, then that's your work. So learning to go into the liminal dream space, kind of warrior style. Scent, we were talking earlier about scent. Using scent is a great way, using a scent or a sound that is calming for you. Like if you are someone who has a lot of fear in hypnagogia or hypnopompia, try working with a sound or a scent. Go to your happy place with that sound or scent, and then sleep with it near you. That'll often help you. But if you're someone who has a lot of fear, and that's what comes up in the hypnagogic space, that's a really safe space to be exploring your fear. And I really encourage people to. I know it's easier said than done, but to really try to go into that space and see what it has to teach you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I guess I just have one more question before we wrap this up. If you were able to spend 24 hours in a dream state with anybody of your choice, who would it be and what would you do?
Well, that's quite a fine question. Who would it be and what would I do? I might go for my great grandmother, who died when I was in my mid-20s. I think I would go for my great grandmother in her youth, and I would ask her a lot of, because I come from poor people, and we don't really know much about the history. All we know is from the people who were alive. So I would love to ask. There's a lot I would have loved to understand about her and her life that I was just too young and not really forward thinking to ask her when she was still alive. Either that or my childhood cat, who I miss all the time.
Oh,
he actually visits me all the time in my dreams anyway, so that's kind of cheating.
Does he? That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm always so happy to see him.
Do you guys just like chill and cuddle and you pet him, or? Yeah,
we do a lot of chilling and cuddling. Sometimes we go on adventures, but mostly there's a lot of chilling and cuddling. Sometimes I'll calculate his age. I'll be like, wow, Webster, you're like 40.
That's so cool. They really have a special spot in our hearts. That's so cool. We can visit them.
They're going to help you with your liminal dreaming too. Your cat friends are there to help you with hypnagogia.
Cool. Well, if there's anything else you'd like to add, feel free to. Otherwise, if you can give anybody any handles or a way to contact you, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's a contact form. All my websites are connected like a house with a lot of bad additions built on it. So liminaldreaming.com is as good a place as any to start. There's a contact form which I do respond to. If you go to Facebook, it's also Liminal Dreaming, and on Twitter, it's @Jennifer.
Awesome, simple enough. Jennifer, thanks again for your time. It's been an honor. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, Mason.
Have a great night, Jennifer. All right, folks, that's going to do it for episode 12. Thanks again for listening. I really appreciate your support. If any of the following sounded interesting to you, I highly recommend going and picking up Jennifer's book. It's a really easy book to follow. There are exercises throughout the book. It gets into all sorts of cool things like circadian rhythms and chronotypes and the science behind the liminal state. If you want to know more about Jennifer, visit her website at jenniferdumpert.com. That's Jennifer, 2 N's, 1 F, D is in dream, UMPERT. If you're a Twitter person, she does post a dream every day. You can find her at ONEIROFER. It's really rad to see people put their dreams out there on social media. And actually, Twitter is kind of a good place for that. There are quite a few people that tweet about their dreams. Maybe make an account and put your own dreams out there as a dream journal, or just read what other people are putting out there. If you like what you just heard, I am very active on Instagram, not so much on Twitter, but also leaving a Apple podcast review or a review on any of the podcast platforms would help me 1,000,000%. But honestly, the best thing you could do would be to share this episode with a friend. All of my content can be found if you just do a search for All Aboard the Dream Train, all one word. I hope everybody has a great day. Get some sleep, start a dream journal, and maybe try out Liminal Dreaming and report back with your experience.